Okay, so I'm Grasswalker, hello and welcome to How I Killed My Players and Why I Don't Feel Bad About It. This is Chapter 2 and the character that died was Milk. So as always, it's important to get some context on the party before they died. The party was level 6, it consisted of a Battlemaster Fighter, a Rogue Ranger multiclass, they were 4 levels in Rogue Assassin and 2 levels in Ranger, a level 6 Cleric of Light, a level 6 Bard Law College, and a level 6 Warlock, and I don't actually remember what Pact or Patron they were, which kind of gives away that the Warlock was the one that died. But most importantly, what this means is that 3 party members had spellcasting to heal. The Ranger had Cure Wounds because they hit level 2, the Cleric obviously had a fuck ton of healing, and the Bard obviously also had spells like Healing Word. The Fighter would have been able to heal if they got into melee range because they were carrying potions of healing, but the Warlock had no way whatsoever at all to heal themselves. So the question is, how exactly did somebody manage to die when every other party member in the group could have healed them? Especially in 5th edition, where if you fall unconscious you just start rolling death saves, and any healing whatsoever, even 1 point from a long range 60 feet healing word as a bonus action, even that is enough to bring you fully up, wipe all your death saves, and it's as if you never went down apart from the fact you're prone. Now before I can even open up the dungeon and tell you what went wrong there, I have to talk to you about the mistakes they made when they picked their spells. So first things first, they had 7 spells because they're a 6th level Warlock. Warlocks always have to cast spells at the highest level, they get 2 a day, blah blah blah, all that good stuff. They had no defensive spells whatsoever. So they had Hex, which means you do more damage and you can easily grapple things. They had Hellish Rebuke, which means if something hits you, you hit it back for a lot. They had Witch Bolt, which means you can just do damage reliably over turn after turn. They had Mind Spike, which breaks somebody's mind and does a lot of damage. They had Shatter, which makes a loud, thunderous boom audible for miles that does a load of damage. They had Vampiric Touch, which drains a load of health, partially healing yourself, but obviously you can't use it if you're unconscious, so it's not like a useful heal, but it's still good, it's better than not healing. They had Fly, which can be used defensively, but I'll talk about why it didn't work later on in the video. But as you can see here, out of the 7 spells they have, 6 of them basically have the sole purpose of more damage. Now that's not giving you a lot of utility in terms of surviving a fight. So there are a lot of spells Warlocks can choose to add to their defensive capabilities, and I'm going to list a few, but this isn't all of them, and obviously you can take offensive spells and use them defensively. But I feel like they could have benefited a little bit from Armour of Agathis. It gives you extra health, it means if somebody hurts you, they take damage, it might disincentivize somebody from attacking you. Expeditious Retreat just makes it so you can run away, and that's pretty much it, it's a fantastic choice. Protection from Evil and Good has both offensive and defensive uses, but it's only good against a certain type of thing, which is why it's orange. It only helps you against Celestials, Fiends and Undead, something like that. Darkness is fantastic, because if you ever feel scared, you can just slam down, I think, this 20-foot cube of just pitch blackness. You can run away in a random direction, and they're not going to know what way to follow you, they're not going to be able to attack you unless they try, which will be with disadvantage. Hold Person again is primarily used for offense, you hold somebody and you attack them. It's also limited to humanoids, but there's nothing stopping you from hold personing somebody and running away from them. And then we come to the real creme de la creme of running away, which is invisibility. You just disappear and you just sleuth away. The only disadvantage to this is they can still hear you, they can still smell you, but as long as you're pretty quiet, they're never going to find you. Misty Step, where you literally vanish from their fingertips and just appear somewhere else. This is a fantastic spell, and I'd recommend you take it on pretty much anyone you have access to it with. And Fly, which is one of the best spells for getting away from things that don't have ranged attacks. Obviously it's limited in that regard, but it's so useful in other circumstances that I think this is a premium spell to avoid death. But now you have to look at this list and you have to think, okay, so everybody in their party except for them had healing spells, and they even had one of the best getting away spells that you could recommend. So Grass, what the fuck, how did they die? Why have you done this to this player? And we'll get to that now. So now I'm going to give you guys some context on exactly what happened. The party was travelling northwards towards Iolon, which is, despite what it looks like on the map, it's actually underground, so surface level's here, underground is way down here. It's in the Underdark, it's the capital city of the Drow, and basically they had heard that the place was off limits and it was closed. So they started this map, which is the entrance to the Underdark here. This is basically like, you're basically here, you're basically the Underdark, you just got to get through the city gates, down the elevator. This is like knee-height water, they walked in through here. They had choices in which direction they want. They could like fucking ride down the waterfall, go up this thing and find the chest, or go down here. The dwarf was originally hostile. He's like, "Hey, get out of here! I'm guarding this place." And they're like, "Whoa, whoa, chill! We're just trying to get in the city." And he's like, "Oh, so am I." And he leads them to this dwarf encampment, and the dwarves are trying to dig their way into the city because it's been shut. It's been off limits. No one can get inside. Dwarves would like to dig from another angle, but they're trapped in by these hook monsters. But the party's like, "Fuck that! We're not fighting some hook monsters. You can dig your way in the city." And they came around the front entrance. Front entrance is shut. This is obviously the plateau that leads up to the main gate, which opens into an elevator, which takes you down 100 miles into the capital city of the Drow. Guardian's up and running. He doesn't give a shit. No one's coming in. It's just him, his hammer, and his sandals, and nobody's getting past. All these Drow are camped outside. Now, these offices or like buildings are originally like where the guard posts would keep watch and not let people use the elevator, but since it's been more automated. But they've like reclaimed these dusty offices because they're trapped inside. Some of them are built on like shitty beds, some of them are just in sleeping roll like bags. But there was one guy here and he said like, "Hey, I need to get in. I run the trading guild. If you don't get me inside this city, I'm going to be pissed. But if you do get me inside, I'm going to give you so much gold, you're going to bleed gold out of your eyes." And they're like, "You know what? We want to go in the city anyway. Maybe we'll work this out." They found some dead lizard folk, which this is actually where they met Milk. So Milk had joined the party this session. Milk was waiting outside the city. He's like, "You know what? I want to go in. I've heard rumour that there's some artifacts in there that I want." And that was because in his backstory as a warlock, me and him decided his character motivation for trying to get inside the city is that there was an artifact inside there that his patron told him to get. It's pretty simple stuff. Nothing complex to introduce a character. And he said, "You know what, I've handled 2 lizard folk, there's some more, do you want to help me kill them and we'll find a way in?" Party, as you can see, massacres this pile of lizard folk. One of my favourite moments in the whole campaign happened here, where the cleric was stood in this square. Let's just draw that. And he used like his action to push a lizard folk into the water. Lizard folk spent his turn climbing back up. He used this action to kick him down. And for 3 consecutive turns, he rolled a nat 20 to kick him down. So the first one, it's like nat 20, yeah, you kick him down. Second one, it's like nat 20, you kick him against the wall and he falls down. Third one, it's like you just turn this guy into paste against the far wall. And the probability of that is really low. Just 3 nat 20s in a row on the same action. It's one of my favourite moments in the whole campaign. Party continued to travel through here, killed some more lizard folk, disrupted some ritual to summon a giant water god. They actually messed around with the water god a bit. But it never fully got finished summoning, and then the party was here, in this sort of area here, taking a rest. Those guys decided to take a short rest. The cleric Bairn, I believe, began ritual casting a spell. He was ritual casting Water Walk, because obviously they've come up this way, and they're like, "Alright, there's water that way, let me get with the arrow rather than point my hand. Water up this way, water down this way, so we've come further. There's shit in here that we fought and we don't like the look of it. There's stuff in here, but this just leads us back to here. This room's empty apart from the water, and there's water up here. So the 3 ways we haven't gone, which is here, here, and here, is all water, and it's all quite deep water. So he begins ritual casting Water Walk so that everyone can walk on water and explore together. But Milk gets this idea that he's going to cast Fly on himself and he's going to do some exploration. Now, I had repeatedly warned these guys that the Underdark was no joke. This is a dangerous place. They came here at level 6, and the Underdark's not going to take any prisoners. There's nothing down here that is happy-go-lucky flower rainbow stuff. The Underdark's a nasty place. So Milk casts Fly on himself, and he heads off this way, whilst Bairn's ritual casting. So he flies up here, he flies into this crevice, and he spots this Mind Flayer that's dead. It's like a shoutback to Critical Role, where when they went to the Underdark and they had all the dark dwarves, Dioga, whatever they're called, and there was a Mind Flayer in his own little crevice as a prisoner, and the party like spoke to him, interacted with him, and he eventually, I think his name was Clarence or something, and he eventually betrayed them. It was a shout back to that, where it'd be like the Mind Flayer on his own, but he'd just be dead. So it's not, I'm not like stealing the story arc. It's just a nice throwback for me to put in. He spotted that, and then he decided, alright, there's nothing there. I'm going to keep going this way. And you can actually see where he flew to. So let's just measure it. He is... I'm going to have to zoom out to measure it. That's how far away he went from the party. He is 115 feet. I don't know if you can see that or if I'm going to zoom in or whatever. But he's 115 from about where the party is. But that's in raw distance. What he's actually is 100 feet that way. And 100 feet this way. And it's terrain nobody can pass. He's gone the opposite side of the dungeon to his party. He has just gone way on his own, and that, you just can't do that. Not in the Underdark where it's pitch black, not when your party can't catch up to you if they wanted to, and not when they're ritual casting Waterwalk anyway. What he did was completely unnecessary, and he paid the price. So, in addition to Milk exploring the dungeon on his own, he also knew there was a Hydra in the dungeon, and he knew the Hydra was in deep water, and he knew the Hydra was within a stone's throw of the front gate, which is just there. He knew these things because he's the one that told the party, even though the party already knew, and this is information I gave him as he joined the game, as the explanation as to why he's not just gone off exploring on his own, the explanation as to why he's killed 2 of these lizard folk, but he hasn't just gone waltzing around on his own. And he disregarded this, so if you disregard a warning from the Dungeon Master about something that they're saying, oh yeah, the reason you haven't gone on your own is because there's a Hydra somewhere, you don't know where it is, but it's somewhere. So as soon as he gets in range of the Hydra that's on the GM layer at this point, because it's underwater, and at no point was Milk saying like, oh, I want to make a perception check, look around. I was looking at his passive perception, but he dumped wisdom, so his passive perception was 9, and a Hydra that's underwater is never going to be spotted by that. So as soon as he was in range, the Hydra struck. The Hydra basically came to the top of the water. It's got really long necks, and I believe it even has a long reach on its attacks. I'm not sure exactly. Yeah, 10-foot reach is what it says on the Roll20, which I'm pretty sure is accurate. And it just began massacring him, basically. It only has 2 heads as well, like most Hydras range between 2, 3, 5, 7, lots of heads. This one's only got 2 heads, it's quite an easy Hydra. And if you click on it, you can see the stats. It has 172 health, 16 AC. It's not the most dangerous Hydra in the world, but given the place you're fighting it, and it gets a surprise attack on you because it's hidden, this is supposed to be a balanced encounter for 5 level 6s. I think if we pull that up it will be. So I've plugged the stuff into this encounter balance. We've got number of characters 5, character level 6, number of monsters 1, monster CR 8. And this comes out as a medium encounter, and I'm actually quite proud of that. I'd say it's probably worse than that because of the place you're fighting it. So there's these quite high up shelves, and if it can reach you, which it can, and it attacks you and it drags you down, you're kind of stuck in this bowl shape. There's also currents that are going to be swinging you around, so if you're in the water and you're not very big, you're going to get span around and you're going to struggle to swim away from it. It's a very harsh fight. I was quite generous in what happened afterwards. So the party, being about 100 feet away, had no idea what was happening to Milk. They shouldn't have had any idea, but I said, hey guys, make a perception check, because I'm assuming Milk's going to scream. They make some perception checks. I think it was like anywhere from 10 to 20, anything above like 12 I would have let them have. And I said, alright, you hear Milk screaming, something's gone horribly wrong. You think it may have to do with the Hydra Milk told you about that lives in deep waters. And the party said, alright, let's try and fix this. What can we do? Because we can't actually get up this thing. Now the party actually made me so proud with what they did, because the party has a pair of water walking boots, and the way I describe the boots is they don't need attunement, it's just the boots themselves will always float. Therefore, if you are balanced and you stand on top of them, you will also be on top of the water. Now these are in possession of the Bard. So what the Bard did as he acted first, he went something like a dash action 60 foot here, from wherever he was, 60 foot to here. He's still not in range of Healing Word, he's nowhere near helping Milk at this point. So the Bard takes a dash action, gets to about here, way out of range of Healing Word, way out of range of doing anything else, like cutting words to help, any spells that help. So the Bard turns and he says, I've took my action to dash. Can I use my object interaction or my bonus action or something like that to throw one of my water walking boots back to the group? And I'm like, you know what? give me some kind of check, I don't remember what I asked for, and you can do it. He rolled really well. He got it like within 5 foot of the square he asked for, and the rogue said, I'd like to jump and catch it and put it, and I'd like to hop the same way he did. Now the rogue can triple dash, so he can go 30, 60, 90 to like here. Now the rogue can see what's happening, but he still can't help, and he's hopping, and I'm making him do acrobatics checks to keep his balance because he's trying to hop 90 feet in 6 seconds. And then the rogue says, alright, I'd like to throw my thing back, but I've actually left visual range. So now it's the cleric's turn, who got really bad initiative, and the cleric looks at himself and he looks at his friends that have dashed away, and he's like, this is annoying because I could have cast Water Walk, but obviously you guys have rushed away because that makes sense for what your characters would do. So he cancels the ritual cast of Water Walk and then just casts it on himself and the remaining party member, the fighter, and they start running up the water that way. But obviously he's used his action to cast, so he can barely get 30 feet. Then we go back in the initiative order. It's the Hydra beating down on Milk very hard. Milk on his own, unprepared, drowning, getting beaten to shit. It's looking really bad for him, but he's not even unconscious at this point. Then the rogue tries to hop his way down. Again, he can triple dash to sort of get within range, but then the rogue remembers, oh shit, like my only weapons that I'm good with are a longbow. So he hops to about here and starts peppering with longbow shots to get sneak attack damage, and he's like, alright, I'll kill the Hydra and then that'll solve the situation. The bard tries to hop his way along this wall with like a hand on the wall to help his balance, so I give him acrobatics checks with advantage, but he still fails it like really badly. So he falls in the water, and as you can see, the water flows this direction, so it starts dragging him back, so he's even further out of the way of a healing word. That's not why I did it, it's just logic. I just play the world, I don't try to kill people. The fighter and the other person continue running, but they can only get to about here at this point. Round order comes back up. Hydra continues to beat on Milk. Now at this point, Milk's unconscious. He'd already lost his concentration from Fly when he got the shit kicked out of him by the Hydra the first round. He got quite low on health, but not unconscious on the second round. And obviously you're going to struggle to use like a disengage run action when you're underwater and your swim speed is only like 15 feet. In addition to this, he had no defensive spells except Fly, which he wasted to get here. So he couldn't just Misty Step to here and it's over and it's done and he's free. He only had damage spells. Now we get back to the turn order. Rogue continues firing off shots on this guy. The Hydra is beginning to take heavy damage because 2d6 or 3d6 sneak attack damage per round plus a longbow plus like 5 dex damage adds up quick when you have 170 health. The fighter begins running up, the bard is almost in range to use a healing word. Now the thing about Milk dying is he could have lived. He actually was gonna survive this. The whole party was there. Ben had cast Water Walk on him and the fighter. The rogue and the bard were fucking jumping around with one boot each of the water walking boots. Everyone was there. The bard healed him before he died. Obviously the Hydra with him as the only target put him straight back down. Bard healed him, he got back up. Hydra put him down, Bard healed him, Hydra was taking heavy damage, Fighter and the Cleric arrive, now the Cleric starts putting him back up, the Bard puts him up as well. Milk was gonna live, but he gave up. He just gave up completely. So his character, the player that was playing Milk disconnected, and I was like, alright, well if they've disconnected, I don't feel comfortable continuing this fight, like, he might die, like there's a chance. If you guys keep healing him, he's going to be fine, but if you decide to reprioritize, you'll probably die. Or if you run out of spell slots and don't kill the Hydra fast enough, you might die. Like, I still have to hype it up as if the threat of death is still real, even though I'm behind the screen and I'm like, the Cleric still has 6 spell slots that could be used on Healing Word at different levels. Bard still has 3 spell slots he could use on Healing Word at different levels. This guy's not going to die in 9 rounds. The Hydra's only got 50 health left. He's fucked. So we called a 10-minute break. Everyone left. They got their snacks, their packs, and their juice boxes or whatever they fucking have during their breaks. I don't know. I'm gone during the breaks. I got better stuff to do. But at the end of the break, we came back, but Milk never came back. He actually left the Discord server during the break. So I got back and he was gone from the server, and I'm like, alright, he's quit the campaign. So I go into the private messages and I want to send him something. I'm like, hey, you know, like, you're not going to die here. You're probably going to be fine. You can come back and, like, no one will know. Just say you're disconnected or something. And he sends me a really interesting sentence. He says, good DMs never kill their players. And I looked at that and I was going to reply to him, but he blocked me, so I couldn't. I wasn't going to say anything hateful, I was just going to explain, well, I'm going to explain to you guys. So I'm going to say to you what I wish I could have said to Milk. I was going to say, good DMs play a world. Good DMs play reactions to what the players do. I build a world, and I build what's inside of it, and it's up to you guys how you interact with that. So I built this cavern system. As you can see, it's fucking humongous, and there's a load of different threats. There's loads of things that you could die in here too, like the Hydra, or the pile of lizard folk, or the giant guardian, but there's loads of things that you could benefit from. So the drow trader who's like, I'll give you 1,000 gold to get me in the city, son. And the chest that they never explored that had items in it. The dwarves would have paid them handsomely to get them in the city. I believe there was a magic sword at the bottom of this thing. There was a lot in here that would have benefited them, and a lot here that would have hurt them. What I'm saying is, this whole place wasn't just a death trap designed to kill Milk. I just built a world, and they happened to interact with it with how they did. Any other party could have come in here and fought the Guardian and got in straight away. None of this shtick with the other stuff, and the whole place would have been a waste of time, and I'd have to repurpose it into another cave system somewhere else, reflavor all the content. But what I'm saying is, as I built the world, I didn't build how it would respond to them. I didn't plan for Milk to go on his own. I didn't plan for the giant to attack them. I just built the situation, and they decided what happened. They decided to come up here. The party decided we're going to wait on a ritual cast and walk up, but Milk decided he's going to make every mistake in the book. He's going to make a character that's not perceptive. He's going to make a character that doesn't have any defensive spells except for one, which he uses offensively to go on his own 200 feet from the party. Overtrained, they can't follow him in. And despite all of this, he would have lived. He would have lived because his party is fucking genius. They had the water walking boots, they were hopping around, they would have done it, they would have saved him, but he gave up. And he accused me of being a bad DM because I killed him. But I never killed him. He, firstly, wouldn't have died, so it's a moot point. But secondly, if he had died, at no point was it my fault he died. I just built the world, I just built the cave, I just put the stuff in here. If he happens to die to it, that's probably his own fault given all the circumstances. I'm going to make a video at some point explaining how you know whether a player dying is your fault, their fault, or somewhere in between, on what side of the spectrum it falls more on. So if it's like 40% your fault, but you could have done it, it's kind of their fault too. Because it's not like this Hydra wasn't a deadly encounter. Like, fair enough, nobody would have died in my campaign if nothing was scary and deadly, and that makes me a great DM because nobody can die in the mushroom kingdom of rainbows, happiness, and everybody shits gold. But that's not reality. The reality is you've gone to the Underdark, a dangerous place. It's not happy, it's not fun. There's scary shit in here. You knew there was scary shit in here because the party told you there was a Hydra. You knew there was a Hydra. You knew that you had, like... I don't know how else to explain it. I hope that makes sense to you guys. I hope that makes a lot of sense to you guys. But if you're a DM and a player accuses you of being a bad DM because you killed them, that's not an automatic label. You don't become a bad DM because you kill people. Likewise, you don't become a good DM because you kill people. You become a good DM by playing a world, and you play natural reactions and consequences to what the players do. A consequence of going off on your own with no defensive spells whilst not being the most perceptive, in a pitch black corridor with no light source that your perception's at disadvantage, your passive perception's 4, and there's a Hydra underneath. It's just a consequence of what you did. Milk tried to kill himself, but he actually failed. The party would have saved him, and that's fucking insane to me, because you can make all of these mistakes and you would have lived. Like, Ben made a lot of mistakes. If you saw the first video, if not, go to it, please. It's fucking awesome. It's really not that great. But Ben made a lot of mistakes, but unfortunately, the party couldn't have saved him. But this party was different. This party could have saved him. Milk could have lived, but he gave up. And if he hadn't have given up, he would have lived. But because he did give up, I obviously had to have the Hydra kill him and eat him, because it's just going to be awkward for me to then play Milk. And it just reinforces to the players that, like, this is a harsh world. You make friends, the friends make stupid decisions, they die. Sure, you killed the Hydra, but what did you lose along the way? The summary is a single sentence. He went alone into a dangerous place in the dark where his party couldn't get to him with bad perception and no defensive spells for no reason. And despite this, he could have lived, but he gave up.